Welcome to Hunter's Point, Episode 2. The Bentworths had arrived in Hunter's Point with quiet precision, easing into society under the guise of art and culture. Their forthcoming gallery promised refinement, but anyone with sense knew their true ambition: to weave themselves into the town's power structure through strategic marriages and lucrative business ties. It was empire building, elegantly disguised. Weeks had passed since I saw the enigmatic stranger whose presence lingered in my thoughts more than I cared to admit. Today, however, my focus was fixed on the country club assignment Mr. P had handed me. I didn't dress for idle flattery or social drivel. No, I intended to observe, to listen, and to uncover the stories that moved behind polished smiles and crystal goblets. If I wished to rise through the ranks of the observer, I needed more than a sharp pen. I needed proximity, and the country club was where influence gathered in pressed linen and whispered schemes. Perhaps today, the veil would lift, if only for a moment.
Well, Mother, have you begun receiving replies to your grand soiree? Asked Sebastian, the eldest Bentworth son, a promising young man who recently graduated from Howard University Law School, and ever mindful of propriety.
More like leading slams to the slaughter, muttered James with a sly grin. Tall, golden-skinned, and full of the sort of charm that set tongues wagging.
And what, pray tell, is wrong with ensuring my sons are well-positioned in society? She replied, crisply, lifting her teacup with delicate precision. You're intelligent, handsome, and well-off. Any mother would be proud. And Patience deserves a husband worthy of her station.
Good morning, Mother, Father, said Patience, the Bentworth daughter and youngest sibling, as she swept into the room with practiced grace. Did you hear? We've secured Wilmot Barclay for the gallery opening, the world's first colored magician.
I heard the man remained buried for 13 hours straight, said James with raised brows. I'll have to inquire how one trains for such a feat, and what it might cost a man's mind or wallet.
And what, dear brother, would you do with such information? Asked Patience coolly, her voice laced with the wit she honed at Spelman College in Atlanta.
Opportunity, my darling sister. I hear circuses and spectacles are raking in fortunes. There are tales of conjoined songstresses down south. The Carolina twins, fascinating businesses.
You've heard correctly, their father said, his voice deep and deliberate. The best performers, the finest artists. Hunter's Point shall see them all, he said, lifting his glass.
Indeed, she added with a knowing smile. And perhaps more ventures for you to invest in, my enterprising son.
One can hope, said Sebastian, drawing back the curtain with mild curiosity. If fortune favors us, we may even meet our future wives. I believe I saw one of the Smithfield girls watching from across the street.
Excellent. Let them wonder about our wealth, our legacy, and our most eligible sons. And let society take note of this presentation of our daughter.
I understand your intentions, Mother, Patience said softly, her smile demure yet tinged with rebellion. But what if I find myself fond of someone less fussed over?
Mother, I've grown weary of these charades. Slavery is over. The chain's broken. Yet you expect us to wed like pawns on the chessboard? Must we truly marry both of their daughters?
My dear boy, your father and I did not climb from obscurity and construct this house of Bentworth brick by brick, so you might squander it at the feet of some charming but penniless dreamer, and heaven forbid, one will suffice.
How reassuring. Perhaps Sebastian shall make the noble sacrifice, and I shall marry for passion, not pedigree.
Spare me your rebellion, brother. I have no intention of becoming a martyr for your romantic indulgences, he said with a cool glance.
Enough, My son shall wed women befitting of the Bentworth name, women of grace, breeding, and ambition. Now, prepare yourselves. We're expected at the Syllabus Society meeting, he said, cutting in with the authority of an army general, while kissing Sonora lightly on the cheek before straightening his cuffs.
Ah, yes, the fabled syllabus. The secret congregation said to hold the strings of Hunter's Point. Are we truly being summoned by the city's puppet masters? James asked, arching an eyebrow.
A discreet circle of men with enough influence to turn ambition into empire, and perhaps secure you that investment portfolio you keep daydreaming about, Sonora replied through a sly smile.
Precisely, Sonora. James, the banker. Patience, mistress of the gallery. Sebastian, counselor at law. The Bentworth legacy shall not merely survive, it shall reign.
And all we require now is a proper introduction to the Smithfields.
That might be easier than you think. I've made the acquaintance of a rather captivating young woman in their employ, James said, grinning.
Then, my darling boy, that may be the very inn we need, Sonora replied with her eyes gleaming.
The Hunters Point Country Club stood as a monument to legacy, as old and revered as the city itself. Founded in the early days of the Republic, it had long been the chosen sanctuary of the wealthy and well-placed, some journeying from as far as Charleston, New York, and even Paris to dine on the famed delicacies prepared by none other than Mr. James Wormley, the first colored man to own and operate a first-class hotel, both respected and envied on both sides of the Atlantic. As I ascended the front steps, I'll admit, a wave of doubt caught in my throat. My frock, worn thin at the hem, clung unevenly. My hair, rebellious and unpressed, danced with the breeze in all the wrong ways. And my shoes, bless them, had seen more miles than they ought. But Mr. Jedediah had been firm. Get the story, he said, and so I would. The splendor within the club was almost theatrical in its extravagance, polished mahogany, gilded chandeliers, and voices floating through cigar smoke and champagne bubbles. It was a world stitched together with silk and sealed with secrets. As guests arrived in their tailored glory, I pressed forward, notebook in hand. Timothy, ever at my side, adjusted his camera while I secured an interview with none other than Mr. Peter Hill, the first Negro jeweler of distinction in the region, his diamonds said to rival those on Fifth Avenue. And then they entered, 3 gentlemen and a lady, impeccably dressed with posture and presence that turned heads before the butler even spoke.
Mr. Sebastian the First, accompanied by Mr. Sebastian the Second, Miss Patience Bentworth, and Mr. James Bentworth.
The steward announced with a practiced bow, her voice curling through the room like smoke. The gathering stirred. All eyes followed. Even the orchestra seemed to falter. And then, him. Among them was the man I met just days prior, the one whose gaze had lingered a second too long, whose voice still echoed faintly in my mind. Our eyes met again, and yet something had changed. He passed me without pause, his expression unreadable, as though our brief encounter had vanished with the morning mist. Timothy raised his camera to catch the moment, but the family was already being ushered away, tucked behind velvet ropes and reputation. And I stood there, inking memory into ambition, determined not to let it slip through my fingers again.
Did you get anything, I asked?
Not really. I think maybe a few. I'll let you know once I get them developed.
I excused myself while he fiddled with the camera. My intention was to find out where the stranger went. While searching, I noticed a door slightly ajar. I could see all the men were dressed like the Bentworths. They were smoking cigars, while holding drinks, while a man was standing up talking. I was trying to make out what they were saying when a tall woman came from out of nowhere, shutting the door, startling me.
Oh, we don't need anything else, she explained, pointing me back towards the front of the building.
Huh? I said, trying to act clueless. Oh no, there must be a mix-up. I'm Avery Pickney, reporter for the Hunters Point Observer. I was looking for people to interview about the country club. Can I talk to one of the gentlemen, or maybe you? I said, suddenly starting to feel uneasy.
I'm sorry, you're turned around. You need to join the rest of the party, she said, signaling for 3 big men to escort me to the foyer.
Thank you, I said, following their lead. Though my curiosity was thoroughly piqued, by the time I made it back to Timothy, he looked frantic, walking around taking random pictures of people eating.
Where were you? I was looking everywhere. And who are those men I saw you with?
Oh, no one. I got turned around and ended up in the wrong part of the building.
Uh-huh. What did you see? He asked suspiciously.
I'm not sure. Maybe nothing.
Or maybe something you weren't supposed to see, given the size of your escorts.
What can I say? A girl gets attention. It looked like a secret meeting. I saw the Bentworth smoking cigars and drinking while another man was standing up talking. I explained, trying to sound like a reporter.
That reminds me of a group my daddy used to talk about. He said there was a club of powerful men who made all the decision for the colored people in the world.
What? Like a secret club? I asked, wanting to know more.
Like a club we're not members of, so we'd better mind our business, he said, sounding nervous.
I thought that was the newspaper business, uncovering secrets.
Secrets don't always lead to where you want them to. We should stay focused on meeting some more of the Hunter Point elite, he said, pointing his camera at me and snapping a photo.
We laughed and even played a little golf. He was right. Everyone did seem happy, a little too happy. The Bentworth Gallery opening was only a few weeks away, and every genteel lady in town was polishing up their finest dresses.
Mother, I've been thinking about our attire for the gallery opening and pre-party. I think we should go to Paris. That's where all the best fashions are, Meredith said, sounding like a kid in school.
Great idea. We can get Miss Lawrence to plan everything. Helen agreed, reaching for the servant's bell.
It would take 2 months to sell there and back. No time, my flowers. I have Lady Thibodeau coming today to give us a private viewing of all the latest Paris fashions. Madame Constance confirmed proudly.
Mother, you think of everything, Helen said, swirling in a circle.
What about our 5th guest? What will she wear? Meredith asked, looking at me like I had the plague. Surely you don't think she's going to wear one of our dresses.
Oh, don't be that way. Have a few old dresses. I don't want any more. She can wear one of those and look very nice, Helen said, winking at me.
What she pretended to be sincere seemed like arrogance.
Thank you, Miss Helen. But my mama has a huckster that's going to meet me in Hollow Grove next week to drop off a dress she's been sewing.
Your mother's a dressmaker? Helen asked, sounding intrigued.
How do we know the thing will live up to the Smithfield standard?
We'll need to examine it once it gets here. I'll let you know if you can wear it.
In that moment, I was so angry. How dare she judge what my mother had made? She sewed all of the clothes on the Pickney plantation. She's known as the best dressmaker in all of Arkansas. I tried to put my offense aside as we prepared to greet Lady Thibodeau. Lady Thibodeau was the dressmaker to the elite of Hunters Point. She was the proprietor of the only black dress shop in a 100-mile radius. She arrived with 3 carriages full of dresses. She greeted Madame Constance with a kiss on each cheek, and she handed her staff the dresses to lay out.
Libby, I can't thank you enough for coming out on such short notice. Madam Constance, I absolutely adore dressing your lovely girls, who grow more lovely each time I see them. Who is this young lady? She asked, looking at me curiously and walking over to touch my dress. What material is this? Is this a potato sack? She asked in astonishment as the staff giggled. She inspected my clothes, giving workers a stern look.
Yes, ma'am. My mother made it. I said standing straight, not sure if I could take another insult of my mother's skills.
The work is impeccable. I would have never known had I not touched the fabric. Constance, I believe we need to meet this dressmaker. Is she here? Lady Thibodeau asked without ever looking up.
No, Avery here is my apprentice. Her mother's name is Stella, and she lives in Arkansas, Madam Constance said reluctantly.
Shame. This craftsmanship rivals these samples, she said, unzipping the hidden masterpieces.
The girls oohed and awed, and all three finally decided on their perfect dress. Helen picked peach, Meredith selected sky blue, and Madame Constance chose gold. Cleaned up the room. I spun around in the extra dresses Lady Thibodeau left. Mama was adding some baubles to one of my old dresses, but these dresses felt and looked brand new.
What are you doing? You're supposed to be putting those away, Miss Lawrence said sternly, interrupting my spin.
Ms. Nancy P. Lawrence was the Smithfields house manager, and she watched us like a hawk. I overheard the staff talking about her working for the Smithfields for over 25 years. She had been with me since I arrived at the Smithfields, watching and directing me. I guess, in some ways, she was like my stuffy aunt.
Yes, ma'am. I sat gathering up the clothes.
Listen, I like you, Avery. I think you're a sweet girl. But if one of the Smithfields or the spies around here had caught you, you would have been in a lot of trouble, she warned.
Yes, ma'am. It won't happen again, I assured her, wondering what she meant. What kind of trouble?
I would never take anything of theirs. I was just looking at the dresses. I'd have to be more careful. We had spies on the Pickney plantation who told of all the slave secrets. The next morning, I was still feeling bad when I saw Mr. Hollis bringing in an official-looking lady. I grabbed my pen and pad in case it was about the Reaper or the mysterious club.
Thank you for seeing me, sir, Madam Smithfield. Gladys, down at the Hat Emporium, said Meredith had been in the store again, and a few things came up missing, he reported nervously.
I tried not to make any facial expressions, but I was honestly shocked.
How much, detective? Said Mr. Smithfield with no hesitation while pulling out his checkbook.
$20. And, they don't want her in the store again, the detective continued hesitantly.
Do you know who you're talking to? I'll buy that store. My daughter can buy every cheap hat in that shop. Madam Smithfield complained, sounding appalled.
Of course we can, dear. I think this will take care of it. Please accept my apologies for the mix-up. And I added a bit extra so you can enjoy lunch on me, good gentlemen. Mr. Hollis will see you out, said Mr. Smithfield, handing him a check.
That's generous of you, sir. But we also had 2 more shops that have also requested you stay away, he continued regretfully.
Leave the names with my driver, and we will take care of it, she said, signaling for Mr. Hollis to show the detective out.
Thank you, sir, ma'am.
Mary Lawrence Smithfield, get out here. What is this madness? Shouted Madam Constance, as soon as the detective was out of earshot.
Mother, what on earth are you shouting about? Meredith asked, walking in with a mischievous look on her face.
Miss Lawrence, please take Avery and work on tonight's dinner. And please remember to keep in confidence what you heard here, she said, sounding ominous.
As we closed the door, I heard shouting, but I was acting like I wasn't listening when I overheard some of the maids talking.
They say Meredith steals wherever she goes. Hands so sticky, they're like magnets, she mocked.
My cousin Willie? says he saw her at the cabaret. She was dancing with that old blacksmith, Johnny Brown.
The more I learned about the rich people of Hunters Point, the more I'm learning they're not too different from the people at the Pickney plantation. They just spend more money on their clothes. Thank you for joining us for episode 2 of Hunters Point. Next week on Hunters Point.
May I offer you a ride, Avery?
The tall, stately gentleman said, stepping out of the carriage. His commanding presence and voice was unmistakably his, one of the elusive Bentworths, the same one who twice regarded me as though I were made of air.
I believe I prefer my own 2 feet. I don't make it a habit to ride with gentlemen who forget they've met me, I said, wincing the moment it left my mouth. Too sharp for a man I scarcely knew.
I forget nothing, I said, turning to walk backward with an amused tilt of my brow. Tell me, when was I so grievously discourteous?
Tune in every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time this fall for weekly episodes. This has been a Royal Black and Elite production.